The show must go on is an age-old saying in entertainment, but what happens when a musician gets seriously hurt in front of a live audience?
It happens more often than you think. Well, this video is going to look at some of the more infamous cases of musicians and bands sacrificing their health for their music.
This is not a top 10, no ranking these injuries, it's just a list. Also, Gwar is not on the list because most of their onstage injuries are intentional and potentially fatal. I don't want to deal with death on this list.
One of the more infamous live injuries happened live at the 1992 MTV Music Awards with the bass toss. Krist Novoselic has been known to throw around his bass quite a bit live, so this wasn't really anything new, but he definitely put a little extra oomph in that throw, and what goes up must always come down. It clocked him in the head. Basses are heavy also, so you can imagine how this did not end well. While Krist said he wasn't knocked out, he pretty much was knocked out from the blows he shambled away. Kurt and Dave would go on to finish playing Lithium for the show while Krist was backstage with medics. Along with getting aid, Brian May from Queen was there to bring him some champagne. Grunge was a lifestyle back in the day, but it wasn't worth getting a concussion live on TV. Though getting personal attention from Brian May would be great and Novoselic would be fine. All's well that ends well.
Do you think Novoselic thought he was dreaming? Like he dreamed he was performing live on MTV in front of millions, and then he got knocked out by his own bass and then walked away, and Brian May from Queen was there with some booze? I mean, come on, that sounds like a fever dream from a musician in my mind.
In the same year up in Canada, James Hetfield of Metallica felt firsthand the risk of live pyrotechnics and why you shouldn't literally jump into the fire. While performing Fade to Black, Hetfield was positioned correctly on stage when the magnesium pyroblast went off. You could imagine the results.
Things started going wrong about halfway through Metallica's set.
There was an incident with the pyrotechnics. Unfortunately, James is on his way to the hospital right now, and we're very sorry, but we can't continue the concert for you guys tonight.
On Behind the Music many years ago, the band talked about how half of James was engulfed in flame and how his arm and head were instantly blistering from the fire blast, receiving second and third degree burns.
So I'm burnt, all my arm, my hand completely down to the bone, side of my face, hair gone, part of my back.
And his skin is bubbling like on the Toxic Avenger.
This is pain I've never felt in my whole life. And it won't go away. I'm freaking at this point, you know?
Still can't even imagine what it's like to see your bandmate and friend lit on fire live on stage in front of tens of thousands and are seeing them covered in burns and shaking. James had to take a few weeks off but wouldn't stay out for long as he wanted to continue with the tour. A tough man who loves his craft and playing live.
For those wondering, this was the same Canadian show featuring Guns N' Roses that Axl Rose caused a riot at. One of the many riots in his career.
Another one for the pyromaniac viewers watching. Kiss have never been shy of busting out pyrotechnics to the point of making an entire stage look like it's on fire. Even back in the early 70s, the band wanted to get some attention, or more attention, for what they were doing at their live shows. Back in 1973, at a big New York show, Gene Simmons, with torch in hand, made sure everyone in attendance remembered seeing Kiss live. With some people wondering if it was all part of the show, it definitely was not. Gene Simmons lit his own hair on fire when spitting out a chemical that grilled the flame. Fortunately, due to a quick crew member who had a wet towel, the fire was put out fast. Would that prevent Gene Simmons from playing with fire again? Not a chance. He would go on to light himself on fire several more times over the years, in fact, and that still wouldn't stop him from being a fire-breathing demon bass player. That's a mouthful. To wrap up the fire-based attacks, fast forward to 2019 at Sonic Temple Festival, where Gojira were playing with full pyro throughout their entire set. They've done it many times before, and it was always great at festivals, but on a windy day in Columbus, Ohio, those pyro blasts got a little more wild than desired. One of the fire spouts got caught in the wind and engulfed Gojira's guitarist Christian mid-song. Not only was he immolated live in front of a sold-out festival audience, but he still finished the song. After the song, the crew on side stage doused him with water, he shook it off, and came back to the crowd and Joe all chanting his name. Gojira continued on, and Christian is a tough man. The rest of that day, Sonic Temple would cut back on pyrotechnics for fear of another artist getting burned alive during their set. I know some people were hoping for big production later in the night, but I understand being cautious after an almost barbecued Frenchman. Some guitarists love to shred on stage, and Zakk Wylde has made a career out of it. Whether it's leading Black Label Society or playing with Ozzy, the man has a presence when holding a guitar. The man just gets into a zone when playing, and one of the best examples of that was down in Brazil when playing with Ozzy. Ozzy, where he started a solo and shredded so much that he sliced his finger wide open. If you think he would actually have stopped at that point, then you don't understand how crazy Zakk Wylde actually is. The shredding, which has a whole new meaning in this sense, continued on for minutes with blood visibly running down and smearing all over the guitar body. Wylde would eventually have to get his finger stitched up after the show, but the key phrase in that is after the show. He finished the set with Ozzy that night, bloodshed and all. Whether it was adrenaline, love for the craft, giving the audience what they want, or he was just too wild to notice, yeah, that's some impressive dedication to metal.
Knowing Zakk Wylde, he probably tried to high-five everybody backstage after the show because he thought it was funny to do that with his bloody hand. Gross.
As far as stage divers go, Sid from Slipknot might have the record for craziest jumps and overall distance traveled over his career. Sid just has to stage dive, even when risking his own health and ability to move around afterward as a consequence. Back in 2008 in Seattle at Mayhem Festival, during the first ever live performance of Psychosocial, Sid decided to take a tall jump from a platform on stage, but on impact he cracked both his heels and broke his feet. Only when he stood up did he realize just how bad it was. Did that stop him from crawling his way back up to position? Nope. I mean, it slowed him down a touch, but still didn't stop him. On some fan footage from side stage, you can even hear Sid yell to Corey Taylor to keep going while he was trying to get back up. Sid, being the trooper that he is, would continue through the entire tour with casts on his feet and getting around in a wheelchair.
I got some crutches and was able to walk off stage, and then went to the hospital, found out I broke my feet, and now I've been continuing the tour with broken heels and lowering the DJ rig by cutting the wheels off, dropping it down, putting a riser in the wheelchair, and just kind of scooting under there.
May not have been able to do many stage dives the rest of the tour, but you can't take away his dedication to finish the run with a knot back in 2008. Continuing in the theme of musicians jumping from way too high, Andy Biersack was feeling the energy while Black Veil Brides were performing live in Hollywood back in 2011. But with his giant leap for the crowd, he really miscalculated the landing, as in hit another short wall on the way down and then fell even further. Andy Biersack would shatter 3 ribs on impact after a very awkward fall of roughly 15 feet. I'm not sure why he thought climbing that high and then trying to drop that far wouldn't end in disaster, but he definitely gave that nice Hollywood mall a show to remember. Yeah, this wasn't even a huge concert or festival, it was at a nice mall performance in 2011. Mall security probably laughed at it. I give the man credit for toughing out the rest of the set, and later when he spoke with AP, he admitted that he felt pretty stupid from the whole thing. Lesson learned though, and he would heal up.
What is it with rock stars desperate to try their hand at off-the-top rope moves in front of a crowd? Wrong profession, this is not professional wrestling. Not that different of an audience, though.
Sometimes the falls are totally accidental. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith has had more than his share, unfortunately. Sometimes it's just a casual bump off stage from Joe Perry. No harm done there, however, as Steven got back up, laughed, and kept going. Other times, the falls are more severe. At a show in South Dakota back in 2009, Steven Tyler was having some fun on the runway, lost his positioning, and tumbled off stage back first. Tour was not off to a good start as the show came to a screeching halt due to Tyler's condition. Steven would end up being taken to the hospital with a broken shoulder and stitches to the head, resulting in a few following tour dates being cancelled. This was an ill-fated tour as other band members had injuries before Steven, and Aerosmith wanting to perform live in 2009 really cost the band an arm and a leg. Seriously, that whole tour was cursed. Steven Tyler would eventually be fine, more massive tours would eventually happen, and hopefully Tyler has some soft foam padding in the security and photo pits during performances now. Now it's time to talk about an injury that every man fears, something that should never have to be an issue ever, ever, ever. Delain were performing live in 2014 at the O2 Academy when during The Gathering, the stage had confetti cannons shoot off for a nice effect. That's fun to see. Unfortunately, sometimes those cannons require beanbags to shoot out with the confetti to work, and wow, the aim was unfortunate. The cannon shot Otto square in the privates, and to his eternal credit, he shook it off and kept playing the song without missing a beat. As the show went on, yeah, things got worse. To quote Otto, "Although pain was pretty bad right away, I was merely pissed off at myself for not paying attention. During the next song, pain got worse and I had feeling I was bleeding. It appeared here my left testicle had been ruptured as well as some arteries. More than 500 milliliters of blood was removed from my scrotum and my testicle stitched up." Ouch. Save this one for the last as it has a good ending, with the Foo Fighters performing overseas in Sweden back in 2015. After Dave Grohl tried to jump down into the photo pit from a tall stage, he miscalculated the jump and landed pretty hard at an awkward angle. The result was Dave breaking his leg on impact.
I think I just broke my leg. I think I really broke my leg.
For most bands, this would stop the show for the safety of someone who needs to go to urgent care, but Dave Grohl is not one to stop halfway through. The man got helped up to sit center stage and while being tended to, continued to play. It got to the point to where he was finally able to stand with a crutch and Foo Fighters finished out their set. The band would have to cancel several European tour dates, but a few weeks after coming back to the United States, the Break a Leg tour was announced with Dave's own guitar throne to play it.
That is how you take a potential tour-stopping tragedy and turn it into a marketing goldmine, and look awesome while doing it. Dave Grohl is much more of a businessman than people give credit. And musician, and doing it for the fans, blah blah. Smart guy for turning it into a gimmick though for that tour.
Know of another crazy onstage injury at a concert? Leave a comment, let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, and Dom Noble. You can have a say in upcoming videos, get weekly new music playlists, and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Click the link in the video description for more info. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Now that concerts and festivals are slowly coming back, I really hope we don't see a dramatic rise in onstage injuries all at once, because a lot of these musicians have been desperate to get back on stage and they might just go insane first chance they get in front of a big crowd. We may need to start bubble wrapping the singers that stage dive.